Hello and welcome to Offsite Dirt. In 2024, we have these amazing guests that continue to surround us in our community, and ModLogic is one of those. We have the great opportunity to meet Jim Gabriel, who is the CEO of this phenomenal company. And as you can imagine, they are in modular offsite construction. Hey, Jim, welcome to our program today.
Audrey, thanks for having me.
It's certainly exciting for me because I had the opportunity to listen to you present some of your projects to the Offsite Expo that was the first time in Atlanta, Georgia. That was a pretty interesting event. How did you think that went?
I always enjoy those events. I mean, they're small and intimate, and usually a lot of great participation. And I think it helps to get the sort of message out as to what our industry is capable of. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and
Me
I love
too.
people. It's my favorite thing to do, and so the opportunity to get to meet you and some other new friends, developing friends, is always fun for me.
I agree. So Jim has 30 years of history in the offsite space. His experience is primary in sales, sales management, and business development. He bought ModLogic, which was formerly the NRB USA company, in 2021. He grew the sales from 10 million to over 50 million in 4 years. Holy cow, that's amazing. I love that. Yes. And then ModLogic in Seville, the SGS stud and panel manufacturing facility, and ModLogic or DesignLogic, excuse me, a design for modular manufacturing assembly construction in 2023. So you've been quite busy, Jim, in this space.
Yeah, it's we look at not necessarily opportunities. For us, we look at opportunities to help our clients solve their problems and new opportunities and new businesses sort of crop up out of that, which is pretty fun.
I agree. So let's kind of jump into your build together process. What does that mean and what does it look like for ModLogic?
Yeah, it's what makes us unique. I always say that most modular manufacturers, and many of them, I'm sure, are, whether they're commercial, residential, they're high volume, low custom, and we're the exact opposite. We're low volume, high custom, and it's really based on our build together process. So we don't build modules and run down an assembly line like some do. And for some applications, it's a great way to process products that are repeatable in design and configuration and so forth. But so we produce modular buildings, commercial modular buildings, with steel superstructure, poured concrete floors for the most part. I mean, 99.9% of what we do is all steel. And occasionally we'll get, a variation of that with a wood frame product that is that's typically highly complex. So anyway, my point is that what makes us different is the build together process. So we take modules, structural steel modules framed, and we fabricate those in our weld shop, and then we start to assemble them either on our shop floor or on our facility, which is purpose designed and purpose developed to be able to produce large structures. And then we assemble it horizontally and vertically, and then it becomes a sort of a conventional process from there as far as how we build, what goes in that. We can get more done in the factory than anybody because of the level of completeness. So we're completing mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, any specialty finishes, between mods, between module mate lines and things like that. And we literally disassemble it, and then we prep it for shipment to site. And so it allows us to take on the kinds of complex projects that we've become known for, which is healthcare, life science type applications. We built plenty of other types of buildings too, with elementary schools and QSR, and convenience stores, which is one of the projects that we had highlighted at the Offsite show in Atlanta, which was a Wawa, a prototype for a new and developing program for Wawa, which is a East Coast based convenience store chain. So yeah, the build together process, one of the things that anyone who's in this business will tell you, and 30 years of doing this, it didn't take 30 years to realize that all the challenges are on site. And so the risks, we talk about being able to produce buildings in a controlled environment. All that changes when you go to site. And so the build together process allows us to make certain that one, we can solve the typical problems that clients come to us, which is high cost of labor. So we're building something that's 50% complete. It really doesn't completely solve that labor challenge. And we're building mostly for high labor rate areas like New York, Boston, up into New England, the Mid-Atlantic, down into DC and Baltimore, Philadelphia. So the cost of labor is important. The more we can get done in the factory, the better. And so that build together process helps us do that, but it also solves some of the biggest challenges on site with buildings that were built in a systemized way with really good QA/QC, but they've never been together, right? And so now they go together. You're setting them, whether they're wood or steel frame. The idea that they've never been together is a challenge for the site installer. It could delay the project, it cause more complications, and so we believe the build together process, it doesn't apply to every project. We don't think that we're going to be building, multi-story, multi-family apartment complexes for New York City this way. But it does give us, when you start with that level of precision and perfection, I don't say perfection because nothing's perfect, but that level of precision, we believe we can easily duplicate that in a more production style with projects like I just described, multifamily projects moving forward. So that's what makes us unique. And so there's no shortage of those kinds of projects that come our way. And we're looking for good fit. Like I said, a lot of times it doesn't. Our method of construction, can be limiting. But it does apply to really, really complex structures. And,
Jim, there's a couple of things that you're mentioning that I'm just loving about this conversation. One of them is that you're not trying to be that for everyone, right? You're trying to be the manufacturer, the builder, the designer for particular projects that make sense. I think I love that about ModLogic. The other thing that I find fascinating about your company is really smart about this DesignLogic program that you have, designing for modular manufacturing, assembly, and construction. In your opinion, being in construction or offsite construction for 30 years, how has the DesignLogic assisted your company in your projects? Have you seen just a tremendous amount of opportunity because now you can actually explain the design process, how it works, how it works with your assembly, and it may also help the client to actually understand this pre-construction starting plan for a project?
Yeah, no, 100%. No matter what we do in the factory, and whether it's us or anybody else, it all starts with the design. And getting the most out of modular and offsite construction is based on how it gets designed. And so, candidly, most companies that I've been associated with say, well, we're going to take on the design too. And that's really not the genesis of this. It's because they've failed generally in the collaboration with the design, the at-large design community. That's not us. I mean, we're really good at collaborating with traditional designers, architects, engineers, structural engineers. It's really what we're known for. We're known for being very, very collaborative and really in a design assist mode. But what we did recognize was really an opportunity to enhance that relationship by having a dedicated team that really is manufacturing first, right? We understand how it gets manufactured, so that leads to how best to design it. It doesn't limit necessarily. We're not trying to put up guardrails in the design, we're trying to make it as efficient as possible because most people are coming to us to build with respect to their building challenge. They've got a problem that they want us to solve. And so how effective are we in that? And in some cases, we have the ability to be able to lead the design as the architect of record. And most cases, we're still going to be a design consultant or a design assist, but we've got a bigger team to help us do that. We also think when somebody says, and this, when somebody says these things, this is great, what ModLogic's doing, what other companies doing is awesome. Why aren't you seeing more of it? And that's what I say, the same thing, right? It's not about it is about capacity, but you can't talk about capacity without talking about production ready designs that will increase capacity. If you continue to come to the market with conventional designs and with conceptual designs that don't exactly match what a production style approach can take, then you're constantly going to be turned away at the threshold, right? Manufacturers who were saying, listen, yes, but it's not exactly designed properly. And most manufacturers who are production oriented, their success is measured by floors out the door. So they don't have a lot of time to sit with the client and work through that. And so we believe that DesignLogic isn't the portal through which ModLogic is going to get more work. We believe it's the ability for the portal through which more work is going to be available to the existing manufacturers. In other words, customers are going to come to them with either conceptual designs or to some degree a more advanced production design that they can now take and say, great, we could develop shop drawings from this. And that, in my opinion, is going to help increase capacity. The more production ready you are, the more manufacturers will say, hey, listen, we need increased capacity. Get entrepreneurs say, listen, we got companies like DesignLogic and others who are leading with the design. We now have a portal through which, new business will come to us without having to start from scratch. That makes sense?
Totally makes sense. And I love that you have found that niche of understanding that, because a lot of us in the industry know that this all starts with pre-construction, pre-design, selecting your team, knowing how to talk the language, knowing what manufacturer can produce the project. So knowing that you have this background and being able to take the client through it, because here's the thing, you and I both know many projects start off as traditional. Then it's not working out in the time frame, so they move over to modular or panelized. Then that process seems to then take another, like it just keeps going back and forth. So to be able to walk into the project and say, this is the process, this is how we can help you stop. And I love this thing about when you had your speaking engagement at the Modular Building Institute, and you said, stop Googling modular construction. And why did you say that, Jim? Why was that so important?
Well, because it's what you're going to find is not exactly what you're looking for, right? You're going to find people who are really good at marketing it, and not maybe, and that's no disrespect to those people, because some of them are really good at marketing it and really good at producing it. But you have to really find, evidence of success, companies who've done it, right? Not companies who are showing evidence of sort of pictures and marketing, right? So I say that meaning it's a great, we all do that. We all use search engine, but do a little more homework, because I think what my point is, and that is identify, but then dig deeper, ask questions, qualify them according to what you need and what they have had the capability of doing. Not what they say they can do, but what they have done. I always say we can because we have. It's not research and development. I could bore you with stories about that in my career around, well, this is really just research and development. No, it's construction. It's still construction. It's a different way of doing it. You either know how to do it or you don't. And if you don't, be real about that and be honest. And we still think, especially armed with DesignLogic, we could be a collaborative partner to anyone who has client or prospect who's looking to do this. DesignLogic is manufacturing neutral, even though it was my sort of creation. That's really not why it was created, to feed ModLogic. We got plenty of work that's being designed by other outside professionals, and we don't want to circumvent that. We want to add another, enhanced component to the design, piece that is that's more helpful to the outside world.
Well, and I think that's what's so lovely about what you're doing, because I've only been in the space about 7 years. I have not been in the space for a long time. And my journey started with doing single family homes in Colorado, and I built 5 of them within 20 months. And the process kept getting easier and easier because I started studying it.
Sure.
And when we're talking about questions, I have 60 questions for factories to understand their process, their design, their selections, their warranty, their scope of work, right? And so when you are trying to get into this space, it's all exciting. You're going to build an offsite construction. This is so cool. Boxes are going to come in, they're going to get assembled, and I'm going to save all this money, and all these conversations that circle around us. And it is exciting. I truly believe the whole reason why I got into this type of construction is because I truly believe that this is how we are going to be constructing buildings over the next 30, 40 years. And so it's these kind of collaborative conversations and this education that we constantly have to move forward with. I think that's one of the things that I really liked about your conversation and when you spoke before, Jim, is that your experience and understanding and really taking the time to develop the client and the understanding in the background. It's so important because we don't know what we don't know. And traditional construction is still very different than a panelized or a modular or any type of offsite solution. There are many differences and many similarities, but you need to have a trusted and value partner in order to have your back and to say, hey, might want to think about this process, or might not need to think about this when we're doing lending, or we might want to think about this in contracting, so that you can make the best choices, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's still construction. It still follows the same path. We take this much of it, and we develop an efficient way of being able to produce that. But every other piece of it is traditional. And what the failures in our industry, and with respect to over the history of at least my being in it, is gaps in that process that haven't been identified and haven't been articulated and haven't been filled by a competent individual or company, right? Whether it's on the design, and then so design, they're designing a construction project, and sometimes it's an addition to an existing, and so there are all kinds of parts and pieces to it. If you're just providing one thing, and that's okay, but the client isn't being led properly to understand exactly how this whole construction project comes together, they will be sorely disappointed because there was something they didn't know. Or they assume that, well, this is modular construction. We've done conventional construction projects, but you led us to believe that this is modular, and you've got all this together. You've got all this, sort of, parts and pieces and coordinated, and we're just going to contract with you, as opposed to a conventional, contractor. And it's just not the truth. And most companies are good at doing one thing, not good at doing other things. Modular manufacturers are really good at manufacturing. So if you come to them and say, hey, we want you to design it, we want you to deliver it, we want you to handle all the FF&E that's going to go in it, then we want you to set it, and we want you to finish it. There are some who get it and understand it and can provide that level of comprehensive approach, maybe either internally or externally, bringing those parts and pieces together, which is really the approach that we take. If somebody wants to contract with us directly, which isn't typical, we're usually a sub to a prime, we're stopping there. Most will say, some will say, great, this is awesome, we're going to get a contract, we don't have to worry about negotiating and managing a traditional procurement process. But that's where you have to stop. And I say, listen, I would love to sign a contract. You're not ready, or we're not ready. Let's make sure everybody knows how this is going to get executed. What are all the parts and pieces? Who else is involved in this? Who do you identified as a site contractor? Who have you identified as the designer? So that's why I was saying, in the Google search, really, you're going to find modular manufacturers, right? You're not always going to find modular designers or companies who are integrators, maybe like yours and some companies that I've worked with in the past that are, like Seven and they are program and project management companies that have done it, right? And so that's not what you're going to find. You're going to find modular manufacturers, and depending on how hungry those manufacturers are, or contractors are, they'll say, "Oh yeah, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that." And the client realizes too late that that's not exactly what they expected.
Agreed. So I would love to kind of wrap up with your Athens hospital project. Can you walk us through that project and give us a little bit more detail on
Sure.
how that went?
Yeah, I mean, this is healthcare is one of our strengths. We've been doing it for 20 years before I came here, and I've been involved in modular and healthcare, for a long time too. But client came to us, and they were looking to be able to build a complete hospital, and they were looking for somebody who had demonstrated competence in building a 100,000 square foot hospital. And I said, listen, you won't find it, and you're not going to hear us tell you that we have, because we have it. But we've produced a large, complex, large volume projects and applications, and we have done a ton of healthcare. So we have experience with the two, not exactly in a 100,000 square foot permanent modular complete hospital. And so we went, down that path to making them comfortable and we wouldn't have taken that on had I not been confident that we could do it. And we have built every aspect of that building separately for different clients. And so we went down the path to getting that under the design agreement, starting there. And I always say the biggest success. So this is the largest permanent modular hospital project in North America. I'm proud of that. And I say that because that's not ModLogic. I don't want to say, hey, look at ModLogic. Look at what this industry is capable of, right? And so the biggest challenge with that is, it's easy to modularize a hotel, easy to modularize, and no disrespect, easy to modularize a multifamily project. Near impossible. And I have been working with clients and designers who've been trying to do this for years. Marry the programming requirements of a hospital with a modularized production version of that. And so that was the biggest win, is getting to a production plan that was in line with what a hospital needed to operate from a programming standpoint. So we got through that and worked through a company called Mind Development, really sharp individuals, Mark Mullen and Bob Gessing, who basically had a client in Memorial Health and said, hey, I think we can help you do this modular. So again, they found us. We started working together on the design. And then in January of 2022, we started that path of design. By July, we were under contract for the steel. So our process that I described early on is we control the structure. As long as we control the structure, you can build whatever you want. So we create a structural model that we know we can produce in line with the programming requirements. And so we got to that point in July, and we were under contract to produce the steel structure, because the balance of the design hadn't yet been done. What was going to go inside that building? We knew what was going to be. There's a surgery center on the third floor. On the fourth floor was ER on the first. We knew what was going to go in it. And the design was there to accommodate that. But we still had some design decisions that had to be done. So we got under contract for the steel. By November, we were under contract we were into production for the steel, a four-story, 100,000 square foot, 220 module building. We were producing steel by November. By December, we had a contract for the rest of the construction. And then beginning of 2023, that production started and hasn't stopped. We delivered just this last Thursday. We set the last mod. So we had a ceremony setting the last module, 220 some mods, including a pedestrian bridge that was part of that too, that connected the parking garage, brand new parking garage. And this is all on a green field. So site was challenging. While we were building, they were dealing with all the issues on site, FEMA, and you can imagine. But it all came together. We had great collaboration on the design side, with great collaboration with our GC partner on site, with all the designers. Awesome project. And that's not just my characterization. That's our client, who has just been, a great partner, very collaborative, very, very confident and trusting in our ability to do what we said we could do. And of course, they've monitored along the way, and we've got a live feed. We had a live feed in the factory for them to watch and witness it. They came to the factory to walk through it. They took a leap of faith. I'll be honest. They didn't quite know exactly what they had subscribed to, led by their designer. Came to the factory, and they were blown away by the level of just completeness and quality. And it was a proud moment. And the thing that they said, which I mentioned early on, the thing that they walked away, the resounding theme was, Jim, you have an amazing team here. And so of all the things that we do, magnificent building and structures, and for them to say you have an amazing team was the greatest compliment anyone could give us, because I agree. So that's so we'll be done with the hospital opens, the ER opens, the first floor opens up in May. We'll still be, completing the second, third, and fourth floors. And so it's a phased opening, but we would have saved between 12 and 18 months on the construction of this project.
That's huge. And when we start talking about that, those are always dollars and interest from the construction loan standpoint, right? And I love that you had video cameras in your facility, because I think that also allows the lender and the bank facilities to see that there is progress being made, that there's product being purchased. As many people may or may not know, almost 75% of the project is bought up front when you're doing something of this nature, right? Because you've got this huge building, and 100,000 square feet facility is nothing to laugh about. That is an extraordinary amount of planning and orchestration and setting and detail, and then being in, like you were saying, with FEMA and hospital organizations and qualifications and detail. Congratulations, Jim. That really is a superior project, and I cannot wait to see it all done. I am so happy you are here. I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to meet last month and to really see you shine. It makes me certainly proud to see that there are great opportunities in offsite construction with companies like ModLogic. And so I just want to thank you deeply from my heart for doing something that's changing the way we build and doing it so well.
And I appreciate you and the opportunity to tell our story. And we've I always say, number one, the cameras are not a requirement. We're transparent. We want you to see. The ability for us to be transparent allows us to improve. And it helps us prepare, for, that level of transparency. So open door policy, anyone could come to our facility. Anyone can learn from us. We're also, I believe in open source. We're not trying to create success here in a vacuum. We want to, rising tide raises all boats, and we want to be, we want to help raise that tide. So we invite everyone, competitors and collaborators, and anyone who has an interest in what we do. One, it's not just, hey, we know how to do this and come see how we do it. We want to get an opinion from those who, are smarter than us to say, have you considered this? Or, maybe there's an opportunity to improve that.
And that's why you'll grow, and that's why you'll expand, and that's why you'll continue to grab amazing clients that build trust with you, because that is the mindset that we need in building and construction, is collaboration, growth, and expansion. Thank you again, Jim, for being here. What a wonderful way to celebrate going into 2024. I hope other magical projects come along your way. You certainly deserve them. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Audrey.